Buddy, I wanted to explain a little bit to you about the glycemic index, as it's going to be an important part of this program. I think, as I have explained to many of you guys, when I first started this program for myself about, I guess maybe 9 years ago now, I was really reluctant about starting. I really thought I was eating fine, I guess. I hadn't really given much thought to it. I just wasn't a balloon, so I just didn't think I was doing anything so bad. I had never connected the dots between my health, my thyroid issues, my autoimmune issues, my bloating, my, GERD, all the kind of stuff that I felt like was going on. No one had raised awareness to me that it had to be connected somehow to my food. Since I wasn't 200 pounds, I just didn't worry about it. And for those of you that know me, I have kind of a boy body, so I wasn't big in any one particular area. I was just kind of thick all over and real kind of undefined. When I started this program, I really didn't think that I could give up many of the things that we're going to take away for you guys for the next few weeks. I don't think I'd ever gone without dairy. I had not gone without grains. And the change and the impact that it had for me was so huge that it literally changed what I do for a living right now, because I couldn't get over the change, and I just wanted to share that kind of information with other people to see if I could help them feel better. All that being said, you are now going on a journey. So you're going to have to make decisions about where you're at. If you're on the journey to get to a goal, or you're on the journey to just maintain it like I am now. But the key is that when you are losing weight in a smart way, which I think is the glycemic index, your body is going to change differently, and you are going to lose weight, and preferentially you're going to be targeting body fat and not lose just pounds. So I'm sorry I keep referring to my notes. I just want to make sure I'm covering everything. So many of us suffer from yo-yo dieting, so we'll talk about this in a later video, but we're gaining and losing the same kind of weight. And when we lose water, and then we lose muscle, and then we lose fat, when we gain the weight back, it comes back as fat first. So that's really not what we want. And if you look at a lot of the programs that are out there, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, doctor, injections and stuff like that, they all serve a purpose. I think generally they're very helpful for people that maybe just want to drop 5 pounds and don't want to think about it and get to a wedding, but they're not teaching anybody anything. And so most people are gaining and losing the same 30 pounds over and over again, and they're not making it a lifestyle. They're not committing to their health. Their health is not getting any better. They're not paying it forward with their children, and they're just in the same cycle. This is where the glycemic index comes in. So if it was easy, everybody would follow it. So I have to keep, kind of say that to you guys, because it's hard. It's hard to be top of mind and say no to things. But again, going back to what I was saying before, this is where you have to decide where you are on the journey. If you're committed to losing a certain amount of weight in a certain period of time, and I hope these 21 days is that for all of you, then you have to be more restrictive about the foods that you're eating and really say no. And we'll have later videos to talk about that as well. But if you're, looking to maintain, then maybe you don't have to be so stringent. So those choices may come for you more after you do this program, when you decide if you have more weight to lose and you want to keep going, or now you want to maintain. But at the end of the day, you get to make a decision about that. So let's talk about the glycemic index for a second. So each piece of food has a unit value from 1 to 100 that rates it on the glycemic index. 100 being the highest means it spikes your blood sugar the fastest, and 0 to 30 being low means it has a slower spike to your blood sugar levels. When we eat, food it spikes our blood sugar level when we go into what we call fat storage mode. So if you picture like an up and a down and up and a down, this is how most of us spend our days, right? We eat food, we go into fat storage mode, our blood sugar level is spiked, then we crash and we come down here, we're in fat storage mode, and then we go up and we go down and we go up and we go down. We see this for those of you who have kids when they have waffles for breakfast, and then they have, fried chicken and pizza for lunch, and then they have, hamburgers and lots of buns and French fries for dinner. Everybody's going up and down, but the challenge is that most of us are not eating foods that are satiating us. The food doesn't have enough protein or enough fiber in it to actually maintain our blood sugar level. And that's the key. You don't want to spike here and you don't want to crash here. You want to have a slow rise to your blood sugar level and very subtle dips and rises. When you do that, you're in the sweet spot. You're in fat burning mode. Okay. And in fat burning mode, that's where you start to not just lose weight, but lose inches. And we'll talk about this later when we talk about measurements, but it's so much better to not focus completely on your weight. You would much rather have a golf ball on your butt than a beach ball on your butt, even though a golf ball will weigh more than a beach ball. So most of us would rather drop inches than really focus on the weight. So we really want to be targeting body fat. But here's the key too. When we eat low glycemic, we want to have foods that are rich in fiber because that's going to help blunt the rise of the sugar. So we'll have a later video that talks about label reading and how we can look at that within labels. But if you just think about a meal, if you haven't eaten and you go and you sit down at a restaurant and the waiter brings you bread and you eat the bread first, now your blood sugar level has spiked and now you're in fat storage mode. So for some people, for those of us that lived a lifestyle of 90%, let's say, carbs and crappy eating, you might have something called carb sensitivity or metabolic syndrome. And in those conditions, your body is so used to pumping out so much glucose, it just doesn't know what to do with the excess glucose anymore, so it stores everything as fat. So now, let's say you eat that piece of bread, your blood sugar level spikes, you now have, whatever, steamed chicken and steamed broccoli, your body's like, oh, she's eating again, let's store this as fat. It starts to go on kind of muscle memory, so to speak. So we need to break that cycle, okay? A simple way to change that, and again, I'm not encouraging you to have bread, but is to look at the load of a meal. So if you had that bread, hypothetically, with your meal, you would not have, and you had a healthy glycemic index meal, you would not have such a huge spike. Index and load make a difference in things like picture M&Ms and carrots. So the glycemic index of a carrot is high, okay? But I don't think most people are heavy because they're eating a lot of carrots. Because generally when you eat a carrot, you're having a handful of them. You're not having the bag, right? But M&Ms, peanut M&Ms, hypothetically, not even hypothetically, sorry, peanut M&Ms are lower glycemic, okay? But most of us are eating the bag of M&Ms. So your load overall is higher. So we want to pay attention to the index of a food for sure, but we also want to look at the load. Now, I don't want you guys to get bogged down with what the numbers of stuff are. You can certainly go out and get glycemic index books that will list it. I'm going to post a list at some point, you don't need it now, that will tell you, like, just in general where foods are low, moderate, and high. Pretty much look at the foods that are on the high list and don't eat them. But they're all things okay? It's bagels, it's donuts, it's, purely refined flour, pasta, stuff like that, okay? It's not going to be broccoli, okay? So we're just going to follow the food list that we have in this program, but I do want you to sort of understand that, okay? We don't want to have too much insulin. We want to keep our body in this sort of burning mode in the middle. For any of you guys that have ever felt your blood sugar crash, okay, generally that feeling is you're shaky, you're jittery, and you will eat anything to get in your body. If you think about a diabetic who has a blood sugar crash and they go into a diabetic coma, okay, which is not something that we want, but I've seen my father-in-law do that quite a few times. It's really frightening. So we don't want your blood sugar to crash, which is key. We want you to be eating through this program, okay? One of the things that you're going to find is when you eat foods that are full of fiber and that are low glycemic, you're not going to be as hungry as you might think you'll be, okay? Which I'm so excited for you to experience. So happy to answer any questions about the glycemic index, but I did want you to have a sense of it. Take care.